Hey guys, today we're going to be making a joystick mount or a HOTAS mount for a desk. So I've currently got this VKB Gladiator NXT joystick, and I currently use it like this. So it's a little bit, after a while, a couple hours of gameplay, it's not really the right movement for your arm. It's not very comfortable. So I find I raise my chair up to get my arm more in line with my arm. Get the joystick aligned more in line with my arm, so a bit higher up, like so. Otherwise, it's just not very comfortable. You start hurting your shoulder when you're playing for extended hours. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a cheap mount to mount the joystick, more like this, between my legs here. So it's a nice, comfortable height. So you can buy mounts that mount onto your desk for this, but they're quite big and bulky. I didn't really like anything that was on the market. So I saw a YouTube video of a bloke making one out of wood that slips into the desk. And I really liked that idea, but I wanted to sort of improve on it slightly and make it a little bit nicer. So what I'm going to be doing today is making a little box tube that bolts onto the desk, 2 box tubes. And then out of that is going to be 2 bits of square alley tubing that slips into it. So it's going to be a little dogleg mount that the joystick mounts onto. And then it's just going to slip into a bit of tubing. So it'll be a nice quick mount, pretty strong, and just out of the way. So when you're not using it, you can slip the joystick out, put it to one side, and the box tubes aren't really going to smack into your knees because there's quite a lot of room underneath the desk. So let's go out to the shed and I'll show you what I'm going to do. Okay, so we're out in the shed now, and here is what I've bought from Bunnings. So if you guys are in Australia, you guys can build this using the same parts as I am. If you're elsewhere, you'll just have to try to source similar materials, but for all us people in Australia, this is going to be nice and easy for you guys to use. So at Bunnings, I have this connected stuff. So that is the square tube I'm using there. And you can use these little plastic elbows. So they actually fit in there, you're going to hammer them in. So once they're in there, it's actually pretty rigid. So to make the little dogleg arm assembly for the joystick, I'm going to be using this stuff because it's nice and light. And then that way I don't have to weld anything. So it's pretty easy to change the lengths. If I want to shorten it up for whatever reason, I can just knock them out, cut this down a little bit more until I get it perfect. And I should have enough here to allow for a few different arrangements. So different length downward pieces to mount it lower if I need to or whatever. But you know, if I screw it up, I can just buy another length for $10 and start over. So that's for the joystick mount. So I'll be cutting that up using these little things to make my little assembly, like so. And then for the mount underneath the desk, I've got this piece of galvanized square tubing. And believe it or not, I found this fits perfectly inside this tube. So there's a little bit of slop, but if that's going to be a problem, I can always 3D print a little spacer, but I really don't think it's going to be an issue. Once it's slid in there, 300mm, you're not going to really have that much play. And I can always put a little wing nut underneath here to tighten it up if I need to. But like I said, I don't think it's going to be a problem. So to mount this galv tube to the desk, I've got some angle iron. So I was going to weld this. So I'm just going to cut it up into little tabs, weld on 2 tabs on each side. But I think for the purpose of this video, so make it available to more people, I'm going to rivet it on. Well, I'm going to try to anyway, see if that works. I think that should hold enough because it's really not holding that much weight. So I think we'll try to rivet it so more of you guys at home can make this, so you don't have to have all these different tools. So let's start cutting. All right, so here is the design. So it's going to come out 250mm total. So we've got to be aware that this is not the length that we're going to cut the pieces of aluminium, because you've got to remember that the angle is going to also have length involved. Then from basically the bottom of the table to where the joystick is going to mount, I want 70mm of drop there. I think that's quite nice for me. I can always adjust this later, but for the now, this is going to be fine. And then 190mm out, which is the perfect width or depth of the joystick. So there's not going to be any little bit of alley hanging out that's going to cut me on my leg. And I'll make a nice little end cap with my 3D printer to just chuck in the end there so it's not going to scratch me. So let's clean this bloody desk up because she's filthy. and let's get cracking. Alrighty, so desk is cleanish. Clean enough anyway. And we got the alley clamped in the alley soft drawers here, so we don't mark anything. Got our first cut marked out, so for everyone playing at home, you can see the actual lengths we're going to be cutting the alley to. So this one's 225 because the corner piece is 25mm long, so we have to take that into account. The other piece will be 45 long, and the lower piece will be the full 190 because these pieces offer the full length of tube, as you can see. So let's get cutting and I'll show you the end result for the alley piece. Alright, so all my pieces are cut now. I cut all the aluminium with the hacksaw because I don't have a wood type blade to cut aluminium. You can't cut aluminium with a steel type blade. And then I cut these with the drop saw. So these will be the bench mounts. Don't mind my little blood on there. So that will get riveted together, and that's going to bolt underneath the bench. Same goes for the other side. These are the tubes that are going to slip inside. I think I will actually drill a hole and tack a nut on there and put a just a little bolt so it doesn't slip and slide out, but I'll test it and try not to do that because it's just one more thing I got to do. And then for these little angles, I had to cut them down a little bit because this piece is only 45 long, so it's a little bit too short for them to be full length, as you could see. So now I will hammer it all together and show you the test fit. Okie dokie, so it is all ready to mount up. So I've just got it clamped to the bench, as you can see. And it's working mid. No movement at all. I thought there would be a little bit of flex, but it's actually solid as a rock, so very, very good. So I'll just 3D print some little end caps to block off here so it doesn't look tacky. And overall, I think it's quite nice. So I've pre-drilled the holes for the screws to go in. So I'm just going to use some of these timber screws to go up into the table, like so. And I just screwed this on with some steel sheet metal screws. And yeah, it's quite nice. So I'm pretty happy with that. That's all in all. I actually only used 1 and a little bit. So all in all, I used about 1.3 meters of alley angle. So some alley tubing, sorry. So really, this was about $40 to make. So quite cheap. And you could have bought less angle iron, less box tube, and make it for maybe, all in all, maybe $25 to $30. But unfortunately, I can only buy large lengths of this, so that jacks up the price. So let's mount it to the table and test it. All right, so we have the completed desk mount. It's all mounted. And it works a treat. It is very, very solid. It's got almost no movement at all. And this is with no retaining screws or anything like that holding it in. It's quite tight on the rails, so you can slide it all the way out pretty far. But this is pretty much the position I'll be using it in, nice and close to the desk. So pulling it out of the rails, that's what you're left with. So not too bad to store away. And then on the desk, you're just left with these 2 box tubes, which when you're normally using the desk, you can't see them at all. You would never know they're there, really. They're not going to intrude on your legs, so it's quite easy. Now, for the mount, because I didn't intend on using rivets originally, I didn't really take this into account in my design, so I had to file the rivets down a little bit for this to mount into. But it actually makes it nice and tight, so it wasn't intentional, but it actually worked out quite well. So just got to make some of those end caps, but all in all, she's done. So you're probably thinking, hey, you forgot about those 3D printed end caps. Well, I made some, and also some screw covers. Thanks for watching.